Let's change the oil in this bike. And do you have a Traxxion Dynamics belly pan? You're going to want to keep watching. All right, channel, and welcome back to Robert White Moto. Glad to see you guys back. Well, Snowmageddon has come and gone in North Texas. Have a look. Yeah, that's right. Now you guys up north, don't be laughing at us, but that closed schools for Thursday and Friday. And those of us that go to work actually were working from home, which was a little difficult in my line of work, but I made it work. Anyway, streets are melting off now. We are on the backside of this. I might even be able to ride tomorrow. But today, and not because I'm afraid of the streets, because I'm afraid of the crazies on four wheels, today I thought would be a good day to change the oil on Jarvis. Last time I changed it was 3,900 some odd miles, and he's past 9,000 now, so that's about 5,000 miles, and that's right at the interval I like to change my oil. Here's what Honda recommends. And so yeah, you can see there where Honda recommends changing the filters along with the oil every, what is it, 8,000 miles? Yes, 8,000 miles, and then the DCT filter every other oil change. I've just dropped that down to 5,000, and I'll do the DCT filter every other change. I changed it last time, so I will not be changing the DCT filter this time. Let me encourage you, if you don't already know about this, go out and check out Cruiseman's maintenance video package. One of the videos in that 81 or 82, I lost count, set includes how to change your oil. Very detailed instructions. Very slow, walks you through it. Wonderful video. If you don't know about it already, or you haven't purchased it already, it will save you money. Run out and check that out. I'm going to go over a lot of the things that he covers in his video, but obviously not as well as he does it, or as slow and comprehensive as he does it. And his will also include changing the DCT oil filter as well, which is a little more complicated than just the regular oil filter. So check that out. Anyway, let's get started. First thing I need to do is got to turn on Jarvis and warm the bike up and warm the oil. Let's do that. All right, now that it's warm, let me show you what all I've got going over here on the workbench that's going to be needed and necessary for this oil change. Okay, first let's talk about the oil. Honda recommends 10W30. I use 10W40. Again, that's just me. You do you. The GN4 motor oil from Honda is what I use. You can buy it in this 4-quart size. I'm going to need a little more than 4 quarts, slightly less than 5 quarts. So I have to buy another quart. So I basically have the same thing here, almost 5 quarts of oil going to go into the bike. I have a new oil filter. If I was changing the DCT filter, I would also have that here. I'm not today. They recommend, Honda recommends that every time you change the oil, you change the crush washers on the oil pan nut. So I have 3 new crush washers. You can buy those in bulk. I'm going to be buying them in bulk soon because these were about $1 a piece from the Honda store, and that's kind of crazy money right there. You need a 12mm socket to undo those oil pan bolts, and then a oil filter wrench. Now, if you guys follow my channel, you'll know that the first time I tried to change the oil on this bike, it was a disaster. I had an oil filter I had bought from Walmart, 67 millimeter, was supposed to fit these oil filters, and this thing was on there so tight from the factory that I just could not get it off with that filter. I have since bought the Honda brand filter wrench, which is specifically made for these filters, and yeah, it fit just fine. So I was able to get that oil filter off eventually and change it out. So we'll need it again today. I've got a curved little funnel here for the oil because it's a little tricky getting the oil in the bike. And yeah, that ought to do it. Oh, and I have a flat oil pan here that I purchased off of Amazon. It's very, very low profile so that you can fit it underneath the bike when you're changing the oil because the bike is so close to the ground. Yeah. That's got oil in it from my last several, so I need to take that over to my local AutoZone and dump that oil in their oil reserve vat, legally dispose of my used oil. So let's do that next. All right, we are back and I have dumped that oil. So now I have an empty oil reserve container here for the used oil that I'm going to get out of this bike so that I don't drop an oil nut inside this hole, because it all drains down into this hole, so that I don't drop a nut in there and have to go fishing for it with a magnet through that tiny little hole. I have fashioned this neat little piece of just mesh that I bought, metal mesh that I bought from Lowe's. I just cut a square out of it and cut some notches out of it so it would fit down on top of this. And then if a nut falls, it's just going to hit this and not go inside. That's my setup for a drain pan. Okay, so Honda recommends that you drain the oil on this bike with the bike on the side stand. The plugs are oriented in such a way that the most oil drains out when it's on its side stand. In other words, tilted a little here. If you watch Cruiseman's video on this, he will prove that to you. He empties the oil with it on the center stand, then puts it on the side stand and drains it some more, and there's a good bit of oil that comes out after the center stand when it's on the side stand. So you want to have the bike on the side stand. And okay, well, let's get started. All right, you guys know that I have purchased the Traxxion Dynamics belly pan, which has saved my bacon a few times, and I think it's absolutely the best protection you can buy for the underside of your Honda Goldwing. Go check it out with Traxxion Dynamics, the belly pan. So the oil filter and the drain plugs are underneath this, so I first have to take this thing off. So let's get started with that. Okay, well, this is interesting. 2 of the 3 screws in the back of my belly pan are missing. I guess they just rattled out. Could have sworn Max said in his video that these were flush mounted so that they don't need some sort of Loctite. But I'm inclined to put some Loctite on them when I'm putting them back in now. That's interesting. 2 of the 3 that are on the rear of this pan are now missing. Okay. Yeah, these 2 back here are missing. It's only being held on back here by 1. All right, well, if you're keeping score at home, this is a 4mm Allen wrench that removes these screws. So I'm going to take most of them out and then prop this belly pan up before I take the last few out. Yeah, there's the screw. Now, Max will send you extras, which he did. Thank you, Max. When he sells you the belly pan, he'll send you extras. So I have enough to put back in there. But I'm going to have to order some more just in case this happens again. Just got it propped up here with a floor jack while I take out these last few screws. So that it doesn't over torque one of the screws. Yeah, and that third screw back here on this plate was loose. Took nothing to break it. I mean, nothing. It was already broke. I mean, not broken, but you know what I mean. Gracious me, Max. These things are not staying in here like you said they were. Gonna have to use a little bit of medium Loctite, I believe. All right. Got that puppy off. All kinds of rocks and niceness in there. Okay, let me show you where these bolts are that we have to remove in order to drain the engine oil. There's 3 of them. That's why you need 3 crush washers, okay? 2 of them are very close to each other right here in mid-engine section. There's one right here and then one right here. Whoops, sorry, let me show you. There we go. One right here and one right here. These 2. And then there's one back at the back of the engine right here. This is the 3rd one. So all 3 of these need to come out. This is where your DCT filter is. We're not removing that today because I'm not changing it. Anyway, all 3 of these need to come out to drain the oil. So let's get to it. All right, you want to make sure and remove the other screw in your drain pan so that you don't have any kind of pressure buildup and then the oil won't go down the hole here. You want air to be able to escape somewhere. So I took this out. I'm going to set it right there. Well, actually, I'm not going to set it right there. I'm just going to set it on the concrete. Anyway, so we're going to start with the plugs. We'll get to the oil filter after that, but let's start with the plugs. All right, I'm going to do the easiest to get to first. This one right here underneath. Yeah, that broke loose pretty easy. Oh, you know what? He needs gloves on his hands. Yep, that's another thing you need when changing the oil. Gloves. Be right back. Because this oil will get everywhere. All right, so I'm just going to turn this with my finger because it's that loose. And the nut can drop because I've got the screen there to protect it. And we're just going to see. Well, the nut didn't need to drop. And actually I can position it such that, well, the nut's going to drop anyway. Well, that didn't seem like a heck of a lot of draining. So, let's get to that other one. Also need some shop towels. I'm going to let that drain completely for a bit. And then I'm going to, well, let's see, maybe I can get to that other one right now. Well, no, I need to get the pan out of the way before I crack the other one. Whoops, hey there. Need to get the pan out of the way before I crack that other one loose. All right, crack that other one loose. And let's get it off here. This one's not going to be as easy to grab, I don't think. But that's okay, we got the screen. There we go. Exactly what that screen was for. Yeah, quite a bit more oil there. Just moving the drain pan so that the oil drops right in the hole. And that way it doesn't congregate on the surface here. It is a beveled surface, so it will run down, but you want to help it the best you can. All right. Gonna let these 2 continue to drip and drain very slightly there. And then we're gonna open up this 3rd bolt down here and let that do what it needs to do. There you go. Scoot over here so we can get that hole pretty close to the drain. I mean, pretty close to underneath where it's going to drain. And here comes the third bolt. Let's see how much oil comes out of this area. All right. Well, that's a good bit of oil too, as you can see. Let's let those drain for a little bit. All right, as you can see, got the drain plugs here, all three of them. And I gotta tell you, these crush washers do not look any worse for wear. But Honda recommends replacing them every time. So that's what I'm gonna do. Got the new crush washers right there. All right, let's get that filter off. Okay, this filter wrench has a nut attached to it. Thank goodness, that's how you get the filter off. But that nut is a 17mm nut. So if you've purchased this filter wrench for your job, just know you'll need a 17mm socket to help you get the oil filter off. All right, let's go do it. Okay, oil filter is right here. So I'm gonna break that loose and then get the oil pan underneath it. Oh my gosh, this is so much easier when you've done it before and you don't put it back on at the factory spec. Good gracious. Yeah, that was easy. All right, let's get this guy off. Oops, don't pull it too far. You don't want that rear plug to drip on the concrete. Yeah, it's tight quarters down here. And here comes the oil from the oil filter. And he doesn't have his gloves on, guys. No gloves. I am not a professional. Okay, you guys, if you don't know that already, I'm just telling you right now. Not a professional. Oh, there we go. Tip that up, let that drain. Whew, what a mess. Gloves would be super nice right now. All right, got the gloves back on. Let's get these washers out of here, these crush washers, and get them installed and get these nuts back in the hole so it'll stop draining. Then we'll clean it up a bit, and then we're gonna put the filter back on. So let's do all that. Here we go, new crush washers. That's the new ones. I mean, yeah, that's the new ones. That's the old ones. You guys tell me. You see any difference? All right, let's get it back on. Let me clean these bolts off a little more here. All right, there's one ready to go. Two ready to go. And three. All right, let's get these back into place. All right, I've loosely got those nuts secure. I'm gonna take some of this fresh, clean oil, dab my finger in it, and run it over this gasket for the new oil filter. I do this with my cars and my motorcycles. Just lubricates that seal and you know, helps you later when you want to take it off. All right, so that thing's ready to go. Let's put the new oil filter back up in there. Just got that hand tightened up in there. I'm gonna put this wrench back on it because it's real hard to get your fingers on it to tighten it up. So I want to make sure I get it a little more tight. So I'm gonna put that wrench on it a little bit more and just give it a couple more turns. Just gonna snug it up there. There we go. There's a definite point where you can feel it sort of snug. All right. That's where I'm gonna leave it. All right, just gonna do a little cleanup under here before we put that belly pan back on. And also I need to torque these nuts back down. I think it's 22 foot-pounds of torque, if I'm not mistaken. Cruiseman's video will tell you all about that. That's about it right there. Yep. All right, let's get this back one done. Okay. And let's get this front one done. If I can figure out how to get to it. Yeah, there's not going to be enough room to torque that one. So we're just going to have to do it by feel. Okay, I think I got that one torqued down enough. And we put some oil back in there and see if we have any leaks. We're going to put oil back in there and let it run and look for leaks, of course, before we put the Traxxion Dynamics belly pan back on. To help facilitate putting oil back in the bike, I have set it on its center stand. Now, to properly measure the oil level, Honda says it needs to be straight up and down, like it's on its center stand, but they also say it needs to be on level ground. Of course, the center stand lifts one wheel up off the ground, so it is not on level ground. So you put most of the oil in here like this, then you take it off the center stand, you get on the bike and you straddle the bike and have it sitting straight up with no stand at all, and you check the oil level like that and see if you need to put more in. Anyway, it's going to be about 4.5 quarts. This is 4 quarts. I know it's going to take all of this, so we're going to slowly put this in there. And so I am going to speed that process up for you guys so you don't have to wait through the monotony. The oil goes in on the left side of the engine here. There's a plug, oil plug, just comes right out. And like I said, it's very hard to get a funnel, a straight funnel in there. So I have this curved funnel that helps me pour the oil in there. Yeah, I'm going to need to do this with one hand, so I got to figure out something different here. All right, got a paper towel shoved up in there, hopefully hold it up straight. We're just going to start pouring this. Pouring oil is never a clean thing, but we're going to start. All right, well, there's 4 quarts in. I know it's at least going to take 4.5, so I'm going to pour about half of this other one in, then we're going to start our checks. And so every quart bottle has this like clear area strip down the side that you can see the oil floating in, so you know how much oil you've put in. Right, we're getting there. That's about halfway. All right, let's raise the garage door, fire this puppy up, let that oil start circulating everywhere it has to circulate. Take it off the center stand and see where we are. All right, so much for the warm garage. I had the heaters running in here, so it got up to 66. It was great. Not anymore. All right, here we go. Well, that made an interesting noise when I first started it up. I think as it was trying to get the oil circulated. Gonna let it run for a minute. I don't have an oil pressure light on my dash, so that's good. Okay, so to check the oil, I'm gonna get on it in a minute, straighten the bike up, and then I'm gonna reach down and grab, this is the oil dipstick here. Now, this handle for the dipstick is not stock. This is an extender sold by Traxxion Dynamics that makes it so much easier to check your oil because it's so high. It reaches much higher than the stock dipstick handle, which is way down here. You end up burning your fingers on the engine and whatnot if you're checking the oil and the engine's hot. I'm going to set the bike up level. While sitting on it, I'm going to unscrew this and check the oil. Again, that's Traxxion Dynamics that sells that dipstick extender. All right, let me pull this out and clean it off, and we will start checking the levels. Cleaning all that old oil off of it. And when you reinsert this, you're not going to screw it back in. You're just going to insert it until it seats. No need to screw it back in, okay? That's far enough. We'll let it sit for a second. Make sure the bike is level. All right. Let's pull it back out. I don't know if you can see that. I am just above the lowest mark, which means I'm okay, but not great. So I think I'm going to need to put in most of the rest of that quart in order to get the level up where I feel comfortable. So let's do that. I've put almost all the rest of that other quart in there. I'm going to let that sit, seated, not screwed in, for a second. Bike is on both wheels and straight up and down. All right, gonna pull it out. That looks much better to me. I don't think I need to put the rest of that in there. As you guys can maybe see, and I'm dripping it on the ground, but that's okay. Yeah, 3/4 up the way in between the two marks, so I'm good to go here. All right, guys, well, I'm gonna put this bike back on its center stand and get that Traxxion Dynamics belly pan back on this bike. Put a little Loctite to make sure it stays on there good this time. Anyway, thank you for joining me. Make sure to clean up well after you've changed your oil, and always make sure, please, to legally dispose of your used oil. Just about any auto parts store has an oil vat in the back of the store, and they will allow you to come dump it for free. Thank you, guys. We'll talk to you again next weekend. Until then, ride safe and God bless.